What is going on, everybody? Today on Creators Therapy, I finally talk to the creatives. What's up, everybody? DJ here again with another video. Man, I'm having fun. I'm having fun with this. I'm having a lot of fun. It's pretty good. So up until this point, I have not yet talked specifically about creativity. Now, the channel is called Creators Therapy, and you would think by now that I've done something therapeutic for the creative people, and I hope I have. I hope I've given you at least something to kind of walk away with. I mean, we've talked about bad marriage advice. Well, hello, there are married creatives out there. We've talked about self-care and how it's definitely not a myth. We've talked about burnout and how that can happen. But today I figured that I would talk specifically about some of the things that I've learned over the last few years about creativity. Today we're going to be talking about the creative process. Now, I know that this is probably like the 9 millionth video on the creative process that's on YouTube right now. Everybody's got their own opinions. Everybody's got great advice about the creative process. Everybody's on their own journey with the creative process. That part definitely resonates with me, as I have been on my creative journey, this channel being one of those journeys. But there are 5 things that I've learned throughout my process that I think would be really, really helpful for you as you navigate yours. And you can trust me, I'm a therapist and a creative. I wear a lot of different hats. I'm dynamic like that, what can I say? Without further ado, here are 5 things that I've learned for sure about the creative process. So the first thing that I've learned about the creative process comes from personal experience. Actually, a lot of these come from personal experience. You have to capitalize on your inspiration. I have what the experts refer to as a little bit of a attention issue. Basically, like a lot of you out there, I definitely get distracted. This tended to happen a lot whenever I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, grad school. Wow. Sometimes whenever I was studying or doing homework, I would get distracted. My brain would kind of wander off. I'd want to do some other things. It's these shiny things. Shiny! Man, you know, it happens to the best of us. Now, the more I learned about myself, the more I learned about my creativity over the years. And one of the things that tended to happen whenever I was doing homework or studying, or really just doing any type of work at all, was that inspiration would hit me. I would immediately want to start creating. I would immediately want to start drawing something out, or maybe I had a really good idea for a video, hence the channel. So whenever that happened, I had to take advantage of that inspiration. Now, granted, this is within reason. You don't want to be totally irresponsible and just shove everything off to the side like a really cool dramatic table whooshing thing. But I did take time when it was, when I could, within reason. But I did take time to really kind of sketch that idea out or write it out. Sometimes it came to me, and I write spoken word poetry, so sometimes it was one of those. Sometimes it was a really cool logo idea or something. I don't know, whatever it was. I sketched it out, I wrote it out. Sometimes I even danced it out, but it can't be helped, I'm a dancer. But whatever that idea was, I had to capitalize on that inspiration. You can't always control whenever the inspiration hits you. You just can't. Sometimes this stuff is unpredictable. When the wave hits you, you gotta ride it. Gotta ride the wave, make like a surfer, ride the wave. Moral of the story with this first point, don't be afraid to put things aside. So the second thing that I've really learned along the way of my creative process is you can't always wait for that inspiration. Whenever I was really early in my journey, I would tend to wait for that inspiration to hit me, and that involved a lot of ups and downs creatively. I saw this take place with a lot of the platforms that I committed to creating on, and what would happen is, as much as I wanted to create, I just really wasn't feeling all that inspired, and so I wouldn't create, and that led to a lot of gaps in the amount of content that I would put out, or in the amount of work that I was doing, and the amount of new work that I was doing. And so what I learned is that I had to start coaxing some of that creativity out. Your creativity, the right side of your brain, that part of your brain that holds all that creativity, the whole process is like working out. You gotta work that muscle and get it stronger. Since you can't always wait for the inspiration to hit, sometimes you gotta coax the little buddy out. That was a really awkward way to put it. So one of the ways that I have kind of found to not necessarily power through, but to get through and get to that point of inspiration and get where I can really flesh out an idea, is to kind of put myself in a position to be inspired. There's actually this really cool coffee shop down the road from our house. I had a great idea there one time, and for me, that's a big deal. So that tells me that that place has got some good juju. So what I do now is, whenever I'm really looking to be inspired, or I'm trying to finish a project, or I'm trying to just flush out this idea, I go back to where the luck hit me. I go back to where the lightning struck. I go back to this coffee shop. I pay a lot for a coffee, and I spend a few hours there to flush out the idea. And it's happened for me more than once. That's just me getting seasoned as a creative, but that's also me just kind of pushing myself to get to a place where I feel inspired. Basically what I'm trying to tell you is do not be afraid to chase down the inspiration. You've been inspired, you had a great idea, now it's time to just chase that thing down. Make like the Flash and run after it. Yeah, that'll work. I like that. That's going in the video. So this third point is probably one of the most difficult in the whole creative process, but it's definitely one of the most important, and that is learning how to handle the criticism. Whenever you have a creative idea, you think it's the best thing ever, and probably up to that point it is, but you're still early in the process, which is the biggest thing that I want you to remember. You're still in the process. The process is cyclical, and criticism, constructive criticism, is an important part of that process. You don't know how good it actually is until you get it in front of people's eyes. I'm not trying to say that you're not the best judge of what's actually good content for you. What I am trying to say is any piece of content that I make, I always give it to people that I trust to give me real life feedback. Videos like this, poems that I may write, for anything that I draw up, I always send it to people that I trust to get their feedback on. Look, maybe the idea that you have is a great idea, but allow yourself some space and some time to really flesh it out. They're not attacking you personally. I think that's a really important part that you need to remember. I needed to remember it. They're not attacking you personally. They're just giving you some real life feedback. You need some feedback. You need people to take a look at it. Otherwise, how are you gonna know if it resonates with the people you're trying to reach out to? So the fourth thing that I've come away with most often, I'd say it applies to me a lot, is seeing your project through. Here is where the real work begins. Let's say that you get really inspired with an idea. You kind of flush out that idea. You've gotten some constructive criticism, some real life feedback, and now you're trying to pour that back into the project. But the flame is out. You know, the fire that was once in your belly that made you really excited to work on this project, man, that's gone now, and you're really tired, or maybe something else seems like more fun to you. Here's the thing, buckaroo, you gotta see the project through. Buckaroo, project through. See, I'm a poet. Creativity is a grind, and whenever the grind is on, that's whenever I have found that it is the hardest to see a project through, to really finish it off and put the polish on it and put out the best that I can do. This is where you really put some discipline into your practice. Creativity needs some discipline in order to work. Creativity is a crazy space. It's wild. It can be disorganized. It can run a lot on emotion, and you need that discipline. That's where this muscle memory with some of this creativity comes into play, so you can put some discipline to it. Just saying, you put a nice little bit of structure into it. Flex that muscle, yo. You deserve to finish the project. Not only do you owe it to yourself as a person, but you owe it to yourself as a creative. If you want to do things well, and if you want to create over and over and over again, and you want to build an audience especially, you gotta see the project through. Now, number 5, and this is a big one, share your work. Now, this one's really tough, especially if you're just starting to put stuff out there, because you don't know what people's reactions are going to be. Maybe you've shown it to a few people and they like it and they think, yeah, this is great, and now you're at the critical point in either reciting it, singing it, dancing it, or publishing it. Let's be honest with the real reason why sometimes we hesitate, and sometimes we hesitate out of fear. And fear, and I may do a separate video about this at a later time, but fear really only has one answer: no. Fear is a good barometer for the risk that we're taking. I mean, fear is kind of what keeps us from jumping off a cliff without a parachute, or jumping off of cliffs in general. But while fear is a good barometer for risk, fear can't be allowed to drive the car. Fear is like an annoying parent that won't let you do anything. What I always say about fear is that while it's nice to have it in the passenger seat to read the map with you, fear shouldn't be allowed behind the wheel of your car. You can't let fear determine whether you publish your work or not. You have to show your work. This is you. You made this stuff, you put your heart and soul into it, you let people see it and they love it. Now's the important part where you get to let that work shine. Now, this is nothing to belittle, to be quite honest with you. I mean, this is a very vulnerable part of the whole creative process, is sharing your work. But trust me, this is a step in the process that has to happen if you want to get to where you want to get to with your creativity. I know for me personally, it took a long time before I felt confident enough in my abilities and in my skills to share my work with other people, but it also took me a long time before I felt comfortable enough to offer my services to other people. Walking around telling people that you're a content creator, that's heavy duty, but it's that confidence in myself and in my work that leads me to where I want to get to. Who cares if it's not the best right now? Who cares if it didn't quite come out the way that you saw it coming? You're still early in your process. You may have noticed that some of the color grading, some of the lighting, and every single one of these videos has been a little different. Hopefully, I few months down the road, I won't have the same issue, but you can tell that I'm still trying to figure some of this out. I mean, I got lights back here, I got light right here, got light right. I'm learning, I'm still learning, but I'm also learning what works best for me. What is my style? How do I want things to look? And what's gonna look good for you guys? Because I put all this work into it, and I thought, you know, this is a good reflection of what I can do right now. Don't be afraid to put that out there. The whole creative process is a journey, and we are all on different steps and different levels of that journey. But what I have found is that it's really difficult to move forward whenever these 5 principles of the creative process are not present. Creativity is a process. Creativity is also a risk, and it's a very vulnerable place to be, especially if you don't often create. But you never know unless you take a chance. And now more than ever, it's so easy to share your work and to show your process. Every creative loves the process. Why? Because they've all been there before. I have not found a more supportive cast of people than other creatives. It's amazing to have those types of people in your corner, and they're always going to be there to root for you. They're always going to be there to help you along the way. And if you don't have creative friends like that, well, my friend, you have found the best place to get plugged into a community. Wherever you find yourself in your creative process, keep the grind going. Lean into it. You're a creative person. Everybody's a creative person. You've got that whole other side of your brain that's just waiting to be unlocked. So we need to be rooting for each other, which is why I created this channel, Creators Therapy. Actually, it's not just a channel, it's also a podcast. You can check it out on the link down below. I want to hear from you. Where are you at in your creative process, and what are some of the things that you've picked up along the way? Let me know in the comments down below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully it has been something that will be helpful for you along your journey and in your process. Until next time, everybody, I'm gonna get out of here because I got some creating to do. That is super cheesy. No one ever, I'm never gonna get these endings right. This is just terrible.